This is Sean with Voices Live On and SavingStoriesMeridian.com. We're here at the Meridian upstairs with Sarah Carr. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thanks.
So we talked a little bit before we just started and found out that you're coming up in a week and a half on your 10-year anniversary here at the Meridian.
Yes, absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool, and it's kind of rare in this industry because there are lots of people who do this kind of work like to jump around.
Right.
This is a real, having been at other places, this is a great place to work, especially for a restaurant.
Well, and just for some people who might not know, building's been here since, what, 1890-ish?
I've heard 1880s.
1880s.
And it was originally a way station on the canal.
Right. And then 3 generations Dodds townhouse.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
I came here when I was a kid forever with my grandparents. And the whole concept of this is to be able to save stories of seniors about their lives, their memories of their family, and families' memories of them, and also career stories. So let's start out with the career. You've been here 10 years.
Yes.
What do you really like about, number one, the food, and then number 2, the atmosphere?
First of all, they're serving food that they're making food that I'm proud to serve. The quality of the product is always good. The execution is always good. They're putting together combinations of flavors that I think are great and appeal to a variety of palates.
What's some of your favorites?
But it changes every season, so it's a little bit hard for me. I mean, right now, I think the scallops are outstanding with the chipotle, sweet potatoes, and Swiss chard and mushrooms. Delightful stuff, always cooked well. The ribeye that's got maitake mushrooms with brown butter and a whole grain mustard. Sorry, where it's hard. I mean, they execute well. It's really good stuff.
When you have guests that come in, you probably have a lot of regulars. You've been here for a long time.
Yes.
So
yes.
What's the experience you try to provide for them from like kind of beginning to end? What's the feel? What's the flow? Everybody
gets the same service from me pretty much, because when you come here, and I calling people guests, I don't know. I guess that's what we're supposed to do to make you feel invited. I want you to feel welcome. I want to show you what we do. So anyway, when you come in, it's welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're all ladies and gentlemen until we prove ourselves otherwise. Ask them if they've been here before. Talk them through the menu if I need to. Sometimes you need to translate things. When you've got a demi-glaze or, broccoli rabe, some people don't know what those ingredients are. Right. So you got to do a little bit of education. I enjoy doing that. And the flip side of that, those same people that I see once a week that sit at their favorite table, hey, are you drinking the usual? I can do that too.
Right.
But we're all going to be treated with respect. You're here to eat and drink, and that's what we're going to make happen. And you're going to have a good time while doing it.
I think anybody in the service industry that you consistently have repeat clientele, you not only know their name, you know about them, you also know what they really like, how they like it prepared.
Absolutely.
Would you say that's true?
Also, fun fact, because unless I see you, once a week, and if you don't always make a reservation, I may wait on you for years and actually not know your name. I will know what you like to eat and drink, how you want your steak cooked, where you went on your last vacation.
Right.
Maybe your dog's name, but I have never actually registered your name. I'll remember, I've had people that came in. It was a woman who, her children went to Butler, and she was here for Parents' Weekend, I think. Fast forward 6 months later, she was sitting there and she said something about being from Colorado, and I went, wait, pickled green beans? And she said, yes. I didn't. Randomly waited on her a year ago. Remembered a whole conversation that we had about pickled green beans because she didn't know her family from Indiana pickled green beans.
I think that
That's it's one of the fun things of my life. I really enjoy that stuff.
Well, I think it's part of kind of the human psyche is that people initially will say their name, but then they start telling things about themselves, and you remember, just like remembering lyrics in a song, you remember the story, but you might not remember the band or when it came out exactly. Like you could recite it. So let's kind of get to your story.
And
so
names are random. There are a lot of Bobs in this world.
Right, exactly. So you were born April 20th in 64.
I was.
And you were born in Minneapolis.
Huh?
And your parents, your dad was born here in Indy, Dad Jim, and your mom is Margie. She was born in Chicago.
Yes.
So you went to Lakeview Elementary in Minneapolis?
No, Lakeview Elementary is in Grays Lake, Illinois.
Okay, in Illinois.
Because when I was about 3 years old, my dad got a job with Abbott Laboratories. And so the family relocated to, it's a northern Chicago area. It is almost geographically exactly between Chicago and Milwaukee.
Okay.
And that's where the big Abbott Labs plant, he was a marketing guy. So yeah, I went to high school. I went to grade school and high school in Grays Lake, Illinois, which is about 5,000 people at the time.
Small town. So are your parents still with us?
My father passed last year.
Okay.
My mother is still living on her own in the house in Grays Lake. She's 86 years old. Just turned 86.
Well, that's beautiful. It's a long life.
Yeah.
So when you were growing up, I know you told me that you wanted to get into communication in college, but like, what were some of your motivations for where you wanted to take your life? I know you also mentioned restaurants. So just kind of tell me that path.
So my mom was a teacher. My dad was an ad man, basically. He worked in advertising after he left Abbott Labs. And I liked performing. I took dance. I did some theater. My parents, one of my nicknames as a child was Sarah Heartburn, because I was a little dramatic. But so I kind of liked that. I liked teaching. I didn't really want to be in a classroom.
Right.
Match that with when I was about 16 years old, I got my first job at a Dog and Suds drive-in.
Okay.
Which is still there. And no, there were no roller skates. But I made great money serving Coney dogs and Texas burgers. I mean, I was probably making $10 an hour. I mean, root beer floats. I'm a root beer snob now, too. So that's what, I did. And then when I went off to college, I would work there in the summers. And again, kind of stepped up, went to more full-service restaurants from there, and again, paid for a college education.
All right, so I'm going to change gears just a little bit for a second. What are the favorite memories of vacation with your parents? And do you have any brothers and sisters?
I do. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. They both still live in the Chicago area, and then I've come here to Indianapolis. We did a lot of those vacations in the car.
Yep.
Where you drive from Chicago to Colorado.
Okay.
To Florida. Not a lot of plane travel as a child. Right. We did take the train once from Chicago to Boston and kind of did the West Coast. A lot of it's kind of fun that we've got family that lives in different places. So I've got family that lives out in Maine. So I spent 2 summers with them. We had a whole big family gathering out there. I got another set of family out in Portland, Oregon. So we would go out there, spend time with our cousins out there. It was good. And we've continued the vacation tradition for the past 15 years. My parents started renting a house off Lake Michigan.
Okay.
And the immediate family, not so much the cousins, but my husband and I, my siblings, their spouses, and all the kids go up and hang out for a week.
And what's your
12 of
husband's name?
us. My husband's name is Carr.
How long have you guys been together?
Let's see. We got married in 2001.
Okay.
And we think we dated for 8 years before that.
Wow.
We lost count.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Do you have any kids? Or
We don't have kids.
don't have any kids. Okay.
No.
So how would you describe this is a great question. How would you describe your father's personality? What aspects of you do you see in him, and what aspects do you admire?
My dad would have been a stuffy, grumpy old man if he hadn't married my mother. He wanted everything just so, because that's what his parents did. But he had a great sense of humor, and there was always a little twinkle in his eye. So he wanted everything just so, but he knew that wasn't going to happen. Mm-hmm. I really liked the way that he always talked to me when I was growing up. I wasn't, even though I have a brother and there are 2 girls, we were all expected to be able to do whatever we could, to earn our own living, to make our own way. And so it was never the boys can do this, but the girls can't. We were allowed to do what we wanted to do. And we were all allowed to pursue our own interests. And I really appreciated that. And there are certain things that I remember him saying, like when I was a freshman or sophomore in college. One is that if you need to know something, ask a high school senior or a college sophomore, because they're the ones that know everything. Appropriately sarcastic. And when I graduated, or when I didn't graduate, I was a sophomore in college, he said to me, you know what, you're a minority right now. At that point in time, as a college-educated female, I was a minority set, and it gave me a perspective that not everyone's life is like yours.
Right.
Not everyone's life is like yours.
So what's aspects of your personality you see in him, and what certain things did you really admire about his personality?
I think I want order. I don't think I achieve order. But I agree. I like that. I like that. Although you're hearing me talk, I am actually the quiet one in my family. Mm-hmm. Dad was kind of the quiet one who would sit back. I really appreciated, kind of joked, he was Silent Bob. He wouldn't say much, but when he did, he meant there was something was important.
Okay, so it's kind of the same aspect for your mom. What personality traits do you guys see similar, and what aspects of her do you really admire?
My mother and Dad could also sit and be sedentary. My mother cannot. We are physically about the same height, about the same size, and she goes. I think my father once said that she got the 2-year-old award for running as far as she could and as fast as she could until she dropped, because she'd just keep going. But even now, she always has to have something to do. She is an amazing seamstress. Her grandparents were tailors, and so she took on that skill. And again, eyes and fingers aren't what they were, but I've got some amazing dresses that she made, lined perfectly, beautiful seams, beautiful handwork, and I'm like, I could hardly buy stuff in the store because I'm like, that's crap. Because I know what the good stuff looks like. But yeah, she's always kind of a Pollyanna as well, where Dad could be grumpy. It was always going to be fine.
Right.
It'll be fine.
And you say your husband's name? What is it?
My husband's name is Carr.
Carr.
His given name is Cornelius.
Okay.
Carr is an Irish nickname for Cornelius.
Okay. And how did you guys meet?
In a restaurant.
In a restaurant? Were you working?
Yes. We were working together. Okay. I, at the time, was traveling. was actually the Houlihan's at Glendale Mall. There you go.
Remember that? Been there?
I was traveling. They were converting over their computer system. And so it was my job. I was traveling to different restaurants to do the installations and the trainings for Houlihan's Corporation.
Okay.
And he got hired by his buddy who was the manager. And yeah, worked out well. And we dated for, you don't like dating someone that I work with.
Sure.
But I was traveling, so I was okay with it. Because I was only in the restaurant maybe 1 week out of the month, and then I was gone. So I don't have to spend that much time together.
Right.
Need my space. And then eventually I left that job, and that's when I went to installing point of sale systems for restaurants full time.
Okay. So was there a unique situation how he proposed? Since you guys dated for
yes.
such a long time. Let's hear about the proposal.
Oh, God, yes. So, again, we think we dated for 8 years.
Yeah.
And the way we figured it out was, in the meantime, my cousins who were younger than I are getting married. So we're traveling to the family weddings in Portland, Oregon, and in Washington, D.C., and different places. It was the one in Washington, D.C., my cousin Aaron. And I had to ask my cousin's wife, the family in Portland, Oregon, said, "Hey, Tanya, when did you get married?" And she said, "July." I'm like, "No, I'm going to need a year." And she told me what year they got married, because my husband, Carr, and my brother-in-law, Rob, both traveled to that wedding. And we would have had to been dating about a year and a half, because that's what I would have been comfortable taking you to a family function in another state.
Okay.
So we figured that out. And then right after that wedding, the wedding in Washington, D.C., there was a Christmas that happened. And everyone was coming to Chicago for Christmas. The East Coast family, the West Coast family, the in-laws from Rio de Janeiro. That's my brother's story. And so we got about 40 people that are going to be there. Christmas is at the beginning of the week. At the end of the week was a cousin's wedding, New Year's Eve. In the middle, my mother's birthday is December 29th. Big Christmas. Mom's going to have people over to her house for a birthday dinner, kind of a different subset. We put together this whole conspiracy. We were going to do a talent show to honor my parents on their birthdays. And there's a whole email chain that all the cousins were in town. We all had different acts. We put together a whole roster. Uncle Steve is the MC. And yeah, so this is dinner and a talent show. We get to the end of the show, and Uncle Steve, the MC, says, "And we have one more blessed event." Okay. Then he looks at my husband and says, "Hey, Con, can you come up here?" I don't know what's going on. We've already done our act. It's a parody of Dr. Seuss. And he doesn't like to be the center of attention either. Okay, so he's going up front. As we're walking up to the front, he brings me along. As we're walking up to the front, he looks at my dad and says, "I'm sorry I didn't ask your permission." Still, not getting it. Finally, he gets up in front, gets down on his knee, and I'm like, "Oh, wait." My brother said I looked like a contestant on The Price is Right.
So did the family freak out? Did everybody like,
yes,
it's about time?
Yes.
It's been 8 years.
Yes. Yeah. Finally, yes. And even better than that, my sister and her husband have been together longer. They weren't married yet either.
That's great. Did you guys go anywhere on the honeymoon, or did you wait?
We
somewhere?
did. We actually
Where
went
was honeymoon, and then also your favorite vacation with it?
Well,
honeymoon and vacation.
First of all, we got to talk about the wedding.
Okay.
Because this happens at Christmas, and I'm like, we're going to get this wedding thing done with. I'm not going to plan for 2 years. I'm going to second guess everything. So we wound up getting married in October of that next year on the 27th. And our wedding reception was a masquerade ball. Which, to tell your mother that you want to do that when you realize that she's been planning your wedding since shortly after you were born, and you say, hey, Mom, we want costumes, it was a little bit of a hard sell. Until she realized that we had to be out of the wedding venue or the church, and we had like 2 hours before we could get into the reception venue.
So people could go get dressed up or do whatever. Okay.
Exactly. She's also got an attic full of closets, so they're an attic full of costumes. So there's that.
Right.
So yes, we did the wedding in our wedding attire. And then at the wedding reception, my husband was the captain of the Starship Enterprise. I have a set of wings that go with my wedding dress because I was fairy princess. My father was the Phantom of the Opera. My mother was a flapper. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was. And
how many people dressed up?
About half.
What was the whole?
About half. There were about, I'd say, what do we have? 150 people. 150,
wow,
200.
That's a lot of people dressed up.
Yeah.
So where did you go on the honeymoon?
We went to Oaxaca and Huatulco, Mexico.
Where's
for the
that?
Day of the Dead.
Where's that exactly?
Huatulco is just south of Acapulco.
Okay.
And it's a little beach resort. Again, I didn't want to go to a big Cancun. I wanted to see real Mexico.
Sure.
I wanted to hang out on the beach for a couple days. So we hung out on the beach for a couple days. And then we went into Oaxaca, which is an old colonial city. They're kind of known for their Day of the Dead celebrations. And that's the land of the 3 or 5 moles. So they're known for the moles. And so I got to eat. And spent time in Mexico.
All right, so you've had about 20 years or 21 years,
yes.
basically?
Yes.
So where's the favorite place you guys have gone together?
That's a hard one.
I know.
I was going to say Ireland was a really good trip. His family is Irish. His father is first generation, and he still has cousins over in the old country. And we went over there with his dad and another of his aunts and uncles and hung out with the Irish cousins. Luckily, I was drinking half pints. That's all we need to say about that. The old Irishman can drink.
That's great. What's a bucket list that you'd love to do with your husband?
We are talking about we need to do a big, epic European trip.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially now, I'm a proponent of where do I want to eat? I want to eat my way through Spain.
Okay.
Spain, Portugal. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Tapas is a beautiful thing.
So, in closing, what would you like to say to your mom? You know, she's 86, and obviously your father passed. You know, you've honored him a little bit. But what would you like to say to your mom, and also in honoring your dad?
I am so lucky that Marge and Jim were my parents. They've been through struggles. We're at a transition phase in our life, but I'm lucky to have had both of them and the guidance that they gave me. Mom, I love you, and you know that Jim and Emily and I are all Team Margie.
Okay. Well, do you think this will be a nice thing for others to also do, saving their stories up here?
Absolutely. Anytime you can save stories. I probably should have read the notes because normally I don't. So. I always get half the directions when I'm going someplace, so it's okay.
Well, I think you did a wonderful job.
It's a journey. It's an adventure.
I think you did a wonderful job, and I thank you very much for your time.
It was a pleasure.
And your 10-year anniversary here at the Meridian.
Thank you so much.
You got it.